Hello, I'm Nelson Liu, and thanks for joining us for Western Perspective. This week, it's the dawn of a new era for One Nation, with the party setting its sights on WA's youth for its future. One Nation WA has formed its Young Nation branch of the party, setting its eye on success for the next state election. So what can we expect from the party's young guns, and can their presence remove the stigma One Nation carries? We spoke with One Nation candidate Tyler Walsh about its prospects for the party's future.
Tyler, thanks for your time.
No worries, thank you very much for having me.
This is very interesting. You're going to be running for the upper house for North Metro.
Yes,
You're
that's
21.
correct.
Are you confident you're going to win this time, given you've lost already once?
Well, I am confident that I am definitely going to make progress on the last one. So I took my campaign for more of a learning curve, and that was my very first time in politics, and I've learned a lot in that campaign of what it takes to be successful in the political realm, and I'm going to apply what I learnt there to this new campaign for the North Metro region in Western Australian Parliament.
Tell me more about Young Nation. What's the difference between One Nation and this newly created brother?
So this Young Nation, we hope to broaden our demographic to the younger generation because, of course, myself being part of this new generation of people, it's important that we give young people a voice in Parliament as well. So what we hope to do is get anyone on board who may be supporting our party a shot to have their own voice heard, and this Young Nation will be, I guess, a social group as well as a group where we all have the same political ideas. Yeah.
If you're going to get young people's votes, because young people are more progressive, they want to see climate change being done and all the rest. Do you believe in climate change?
I believe that climate change is happening, but not the same way that the left portray it. So the left side of politics portray climate change as a human-induced issue. Now, I guess with this year, with COVID-19 being in full effect, it's really exposed how much of a non-issue climate change is because, of course, where are all these climate protests? We're not seeing them anymore, and no one is as vocal on climate change anymore this year. And recently we've had former climate change activists, as you may have seen in The Australian, denounce the climate change. I guess I wouldn't necessarily call it propaganda, but they are definitely trying to sway our young people into believing this narrative that the world is doomed and going to end if we don't decrease our emissions.
Young people are more progressive in politics. So why do you believe that they have faith in One Nation at all?
Well, I would also argue that there are a lot of young people who aren't so progressive, and because of the majority of young people being progressive, they do have loud voices, and we don't often get to hear the young people who are more conservative-minded or more traditionalist. So that's why we are coming into effect as Young Nation, because we want to give these people a voice.
So you believe in the quiet Australian theory, the one that portrayed at last year's election?
Definitely.
How are you sure that this exists within young people in Western Australia? How do you know that?
Well, this will be what we're going to find out. Now, at the moment, Young Nation is in the early stages of development, and we already have a number of people on board on this, and I guess we hope to increase the number of people who are part of us as time goes on, and hopefully we will be on the same level as other young political organisations such as the Young Liberals, the Young Labor and so on.
Any strategies you can reveal to us before next year's election? What can we expect from Young Nation?
From Young Nation, we can expect some policies that will be focused on improving our standard of living first and foremost. As we move past the coronavirus pandemic, our number one priority is getting the state back on track, getting young people back into work and giving them opportunities to live their own lives. And at the moment, we want to see young people be able to buy their own houses as they grow up. So this is all about the betterment of young people's livelihoods, and we're not going to focus on the other non-issues that the other sides of politics may be focusing on.
Okay, so what are the non-issues that you guys want?
So the non-issues, I'm sort of alluding to things like climate change and the aggressive identity politics that the left sort of caves into. We're about giving everyone an equal shot, equal opportunity, and that's what we're going to focus on, back to basics with this new election campaign.
It will be an uphill battle, you do admit that, do you?
Yes, I do admit that. I do admit that Mark McGowan is very popular at the moment in his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and I do take my hat off to him in what he's done in the handling of it. But having more One Nation MPs in Parliament means that we have a much better ability at keeping the government to account and making sure they do deliver the best for WA.
Tyler, thanks for talking to us today.
No worries, thank you very much, Ivan.
And now, AMA WA President Dr Andrew Miller has this week's COVID-19 update.
Hi, thanks for listening in. It's been a really tough week in Victoria around COVID, and not unexpectedly, the initial outbreak from the hotel quarantine has now spread into the community, and the government is really pedalling hard trying to get some localised lockdowns in place so that they can avoid going back into full lockdown. Will they succeed? Looking unlikely. People don't stay within their postcodes. People don't necessarily cooperate with testing, as we've seen, more than 10,000 people who didn't want to cooperate with a test. And in those circumstances, very difficult to keep a lid on it, particularly when your tracking and tracing capability seems to be about 40 or 50 cases a day, and that maxes out after about a week and you need help from the other states. So they're in a really tricky position. What do we need to know here? Well, where is the COVID already in our community and how can we keep it there? We know that hotel quarantine of international arrivals is the most likely place for it to be. So hopefully we're doing a whole lot better job here than they were over there, and that reassurances will come from people on the front line to say that it's all okay. That's one of our vulnerabilities. The other one now, of course, is the good to go pass, letting people into the state from all over. That is got a big question mark over it. There are a lot of anecdotes of people turning up from Victoria, amongst other places, not needing to quarantine because they've been permissioned to go straight and do an essential job, and then going straight to the pub after that because they haven't been to one for a while, and of course they're open over here. And I'm hearing this from lots and lots of sources, so I don't believe that it's just one or two things that have been made up. What we would like to see is the number of people who've been given exemption to come into the state released and where they're coming from. So we want public oversight of that particular scheme because our hard border is what Western Australia is relying on, and we'd really like to know just how hard is that border and what are the reasons that people are being let in. It's a bit of a black box at the moment, so let's see a full reporting, please, of who those people are, what they're doing here, and how we know that they're obeying the social distancing and other requirements during the period when they're not going into quarantine on arrival. Are we ready for an outbreak in WA? Well, no, I don't think we are. I think the response here would be the same as it is in Victoria. We'd try very hard to keep it under control. Some of the questions around PPE have still not been answered. I don't know how we're going for glove supply at the moment in West Australia, particularly in places like aged care. We don't know about the integrity of the mask supply and how many of the N95s are TGA accredited. And we certainly don't see a lot of difference in what's going on in general practice compared to where we were at back in February, March. So a lot of work to be done there, particularly around workforce also in hospitals. We're talking about doing elective surgery blitz, but we're very, very short of junior staff. About 60 full-time junior staff equivalents missing from Fiona Stanley Hospital alone at the moment. So that's a tough situation in which to say we're going to do a lot more elective surgery, and if an outbreak occurs here, I think you can forget about all of that. The other thing, of course, is that there are still ships and planes that arrive here every day, and we need to be not taking the eye off that ball in terms of letting it out in the community. And why are we doing all of this? Because we're trying to delay any large number of cases here until we have some decent treatment or a vaccine. The reason for that being that not only is it the human thing to do to save people's lives, but we're seeing that it will smash the economy. Imagine how things are going in all those Melbourne postcodes for the poor people who recently might have opened up their cafes or restaurants. Now they got to shut it all down again. Now they got to lay off all the staff again. It must be devastating. So let's try and prevent this disease. As for what's happening in the rest of the world, it's a complete disaster. It is an unmitigated disaster. In the US, the UK is really struggling. Europe is really struggling. China's seeing some second wave things happening. So just be thankful that we are where we are, that we've had the decisions that we have up to date, but we're going to stay on the heels of the government and say, let's not lose the advantage, let's not lose the benefit of all the sacrifices we've made to get here, and please be open, Tell us who's coming to our state. Tell us the reasons why they're coming here, and let's avoid a repeat of what's happening in Melbourne. Thanks for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller there, and that's Western Perspective for this week. We'll be back again next time, but for now, it's back to you.
Thank you, Nelson. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website and social media pages.
No matter where you're watching, please take care and have a pleasant evening.
Good night.